What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Celtics Talk Weekly postgame show. I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo, aka Celtics Every Day. Right alongside of me, I got it right this time, not like last time. Franco, right next to me after this huge Celtics win at the TD Garden, 125 119. The Celtics pull it out on their home floor. No Joel Embiid, no Tyrese Maxey, no Kristaps Porzingis, and of course, no Jason Tatum after the third quarter. Franco, your thoughts on tonight's Celtics performance against the Philadelphia 76ers?
It's one of those games that walking into the game, Celtics should have had this game a little bit easier because Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey were out, the two key players for the Philadelphia 76ers. However, but it seems like they decided to take their foot off the gas and kind of underestimate the rotation players of the Philadelphia 76ers, which ended up leading to a dogfight. And this Philadelphia team has a lot of fight. That's what this team gave. This team gave up a lot of skill when they gave up James Harden, but they added a lot of fight with a lot of veterans like Robert Covington, Nicholas Batum, and Patrick Beverley, who had a career high 27, almost a triple double 30, 10, and 10 game, but they fell just short, and the Celtics were able to pull it out at the end.
Yes, coming into this game, a lot of fans assumed the Celtics should really just pull this one out fairly easily for the sheer fact Joel Embiid, he wasn't going to play in this game. And it seemed like it came down to the wire, but throughout the day, it seemed as if Joel Embiid wasn't going to play, and he ended up not playing. The Celtics come into the game as well without Tyrese Maxey playing. That's a late scratch to the Sixers roster. It appears to an illness maybe going around their locker room. Jaden Springer was also questionable with an illness tonight, and Nick Batum did not play either. So a lot of players either hampered or illness or down with an illness or with an injury for the 76ers. And the Celtics tonight, only a 6-point win against Philadelphia, and it really took them the entirety of the game. But I really think the story of this game is the play style in which took place without Joel Embiid on the floor, and two for the Celtics without Kristaps Porzingis yet again. And as we look at the lead tracker here tonight, we'll notice the Celtics not exactly in control of this game like they were in other contests throughout last week and the week before. The Celtics not quite a wire to wire game. You see the Philadelphia 76ers were actually in control of this game for a good portion there in the middle, and even in the fourth quarter it appeared the Sixers, I never felt as if the Sixers were actually going to pull out a win in this game, but there were moments in the fourth quarter in which you kind of question, if you're a Celtics fan, is this going to be one of those nights? Is this going to be one of those games where the Celtics, they should really pull it out in the end, but they don't, and we see a really, really, really strong fought Sixers important win, like they mentioned too on the broadcast, a divisional Eastern Conference tiebreaker potentially, as you know these games mean something later on down the line. But the Sixers and the Celtics, I never felt as if the Sixers were actually going to win this game, but you look at the lead tracker and the Sixers undoubtedly had a chance against the Celtics. But looking at this lead tracker and the flow tonight, Franco, what are your opinions on what you see here on screen?
When we decide to make merch again, we have to make this a shirt with Justin Lowe's famous saying of this last year's team would have lost this game. It's this was a skilled win in the fourth quarter, and they were able to pull out. And what it really comes down to is a team switching over to a team basketball and orienting, spreading the ball around, getting the ball into the paint, especially with Joel Embiid out. And they really were able to maximize that in the fourth quarter. Al Horford stepped up big. you could tell the intensity in the Garden stepped up, and the team really stuck to the defend the home court prowess they've been preaching.
Yes, tonight the Celtics, they of course pull out the win at the TD Garden over the Sixers by playing that team ball, in which I thought was actually a lot more prevalent for both teams tonight. In a matchup without Joel Embiid, without Tyrese Maxey, what we underrate about NBA players a lot is the fact these guys would be the best players in the world at a lot of different levels. Say a lot of these guys play at a college level, they would be the best. If Robert Covington played in a college game, he would be the best college player on the planet. If he played in an Israeli league game, he would be the best college player, not best college player, best Israeli league player on the planet, Euro League, anything like that, right? All these role players in high school, college, they were some of the best players on their teams, and that's why they're in the NBA. But in the NBA, we all know the competition is quite stiff, and we have all-time great players such as Joel Embiid and even Tyrese Maxey maybe later on down the line. When they're out of the lineup, these guys are now inserted. It's not as if they don't know how to play ball. It's going to be a complete disaster. We've seen games before, even players on low ends of benches for really, really bad teams put up really nice performances. And for the Sixers tonight against the Celtics, I felt as if, I don't want to say they thought they were going to take this game because of the personnel out on the floor, but I certainly didn't feel the same intensity out of their squad specifically in this game, say as in a normal game against the 76ers. And we see the 76ers, Kendrick Perkins said at halftime, and I do agree with him, they got some dogs on their roster. They do. And Marcus Morris, he was 5 of 12, 13 points tonight. I feel as if most of those did come in the second half. We saw him perform really well tonight. You already talked about Patrick Beverley for the Philadelphia 76ers, 26 points on the night, 10 of 15, 3 of 5 from 3, and 8 rebounds to go along with 7 assists. This quite possibly tonight. Sixers, Celtics. Tonight, no Joel Embiid, no Porzingis, no Maxey. Patrick Beverley might have been the best player in this game tonight, just looking at the score sheet. And this may have been the best game of his entire career. You think about how many games, how many years Patrick Beverley has been around for. And this one tonight, this game here on the bottom of the screen, 125, 119, Celtics win. This might be Patrick Beverley's best game ever. Ever.
Next podcast is going to be his Hall of Fame induction speech.
I mean, he pretty much replaced Joel Embiid's stat line. I mean, he did 26, 8 and 7, 10 of 15. The only thing he didn't replace is the free throws. He shot 5 free throws. We all know Joel Embiid coming into tonight, he would have shot about 12. But, that's pretty hard to replace. Somebody who did shoot, he didn't shoot 12 free throws. He shot 12 threes. DeAnthony Melton, another Sixer who was really good tonight. 7 of 19, 21 points. And I believe at the bottom, I believe he had 16 points at half along with Patrick Beverley. So you just look at their entire team. Paul Reed, very underrated, versatile player for the Sixers. He started tonight. Their team was very small, and the Celtics, I thought, were able to penetrate them a lot easier than if they had Joel Embiid out there, if the Sixers had Joel Embiid. But you did see the Sixers. They were able to run up and down the floor. They were able to move the ball around, find open shots, and just really stay motivated, stay tough in this game, because we all know the Celtics, they were supposed to come out with this win. When you're missing that many star players, it's like Brown and Tatum being out for the Celtics tonight. We don't necessarily expect the Celtics to put on an all-time performance in that regard. But the fact that the Sixers kept it this close, they have to feel a little bit good about this, but we have to feel even better pulling out the win at the end. But from the Sixers' perspective, before we go on and talk about this game for the Celtics, I know I know your analyzation of this game. You caught a lot of the end of it, but what did you see specifically out of the Sixers tonight, uh, staying close in this game and really making it a contest all the way down to the end?
You look at this box score, you could show me this. I would think this box score was from 2017, the Philadelphia 76ers roster, because all these guys have been in the league doing this. There's a reason why they're still in the league. Patrick Beverley, Robert Covington, these guys have been role players for the Rockets, Clippers. They've been serviceable guys and have had noticeable games throughout their careers. And Furkan Korkmaz, this just seems like a very high chemistry team that we haven't seen in Philadelphia in a very long time. And as it feels like the process kind of collapsed, what's left of it seems like the real basis of what they really needed to go on and reach their true potential, which is hard hard effort, fight for every rebound player. We know Marcus Morris Sr. We have vivid memories of him screaming in LeBron's face during the playoffs. If we face Philadelphia, you know we're going to get that same energy reciprocated when he is, I don't know, what, 35, mid 30s. He's still playing with that same intensity. And Patrick Beverley is always going to be a pain in the ass until the end of the game, but he honestly seemed like he killed Philly's chances of a comeback in that final minute. He got a little too excited and on the defensive side with intensity, called an ISO, did a drop step 3-pointer when he should have fed the ball around, and then he tried to double team the ball and then just left Peyton Pritchard wide open in the paint for a free layup. So that that may have shot him in the foot, but on all other aspects, this was a good game from Philly in respects to missing their two key players. But if you're the Celtics, this is kind of a warning shot because uh, what if this team decides to play at that level with Embiid and Maxey playing at that level at the same time? The Celtics would be in trouble. I mean, when the ball is moving around and just Derek White's able to have that presence. Drew Holiday, from what I saw in the fourth quarter, he was picking up the intensity on that side of the ball. And I just hope they can take this as a momentum, more of a moment. It's more of a breath of more of a weight off their chest that they won this game than a tune up for Indiana, but they should be ready to go in with more energy against the Indiana Pacers because with the Indiana Pacers being healthy next week for an in-season tournament, that might be a problem if they go in playing the way they did today.
Yeah, and I think something to note as well about this game and the Philadelphia 76ers is the fact it's a possibility that the 76ers may be the biggest competition to the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference. A lot of talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. They added Damian Lillard. They still have Giannis. The roster is still very well rounded. The Miami Heat, no matter what seed the Miami Heat end with, they're going to be in the discussion no matter what. 8 seed, we saw they made the finals last year. But the Philadelphia 76ers, philosophically throughout the years, they have not been able, number one, to place the correct players around Joel Embiid. That was the first problem, right? Can Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons work together? Can these players next to Joel Embiid work? Yada, yada, right? And then the second problem is really, is this team going to be tough, right? Can they go a full 7 games with other teams? Are they going to be bought into the game plan when they had James Harden? And James Harden, too, can fit into the category of, do these players fit next to each other, and can their play styles fit next to each other? Can they win in today's NBA? So the Sixers, coming off this stretch in which they have certain guys who don't necessarily fit together, they don't have guys who appeared bought into, say, what Doc Rivers, what Brett Brown was coaching, and of course, too, just what Joel Embiid seemed to be demanding out of them at the end of the day. All of these guys are now gone. And what's left is Tobias Harris, very solid all-star level of player. Now, maybe the all-star numbers have dropped off quite a tad to the point where you maybe can't consider him all-star level, but at one point he was, and he's still a very valuable two-way player to them. Marcus Morris Sr., it's kind of weird calling him senior. He wasn't senior in Boston, but when he moved on,
I think he,
right? Or did he wear it for
I think,
the 18-19?
I think he had it for 1 year.
So his first year he didn't have the senior. But Marcus Morris, regardless, right? He is a tough personality, two-way player. Paul Reed, I think, is a versatile big backup big. Obviously, he's not going to play a ton of minutes, but he's a nice guy to have off the bench in Philly, and he's a guy too. I thought, out of all the young guys that do filter through teams, you can see guys, do they get a second contract with a team? Is a team willing to just kind of move on from a guy? Will they tender a qualifying offer to a guy and then not re-sign him the next year? Say if he does accept the qualifying offer, or do they re-sign him? Like, there's so many, you know, things that come up with young players and their team. And Paul Reed has been around with the Sixers for a long time. So that just tells me that whatever they see in him behind the scenes, because we all know Paul Reed, outside of the spot minutes that he does receive on court, even with them beat out, he only played 20 minutes tonight. But even the spot minutes that he does play, he's playing more and more minutes as time goes on. The Sixers did see something behind the scenes with him, and that does give you confidence that a player is probably going to be, you know, fairly impactful in time. They have him, Melton, the Grizzlies. They robbed the Sixers essentially, or sorry, not the Grizzlies. The Sixers robbed the Grizzlies trading for DeAnthony Melton. They traded David Roddy, which was a first round pick, and Danny Green coming off a torn ACL for DeAnthony Melton, Patrick Beverly, Korkmaz, Covington, even KJ Martin down to, Mo Bamba is kind of a physical player too. Maybe not the toughest of players we've heard from, but he's a pretty physical guy. And all of these players, physical, tough, hard nosed players. A lot of them too, two-way, versatile players who can play next to Joel Embiid. And I do believe from tonight's result, 125, 119, even without Maxey, even without Embiid, they were able to challenge the Celtics because of that motivation standpoint, because of their ability to play a different style. And of course, too, they have Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse, his ability to slot different players and play different ways and have that be successful at the end of a game or even at the end of a season we've seen before. That ability is certainly underrated, and I think the Sixers team is much, much better than people realize at this moment in time. And I think I truly believe tonight's result is a testament to that, and it's why the Celtics definitely need to, number one, be on court together as much as possible moving forward. We never want to see guys be injured at all, period. We want to see guys rest a little bit, but we never want to see guys be injured. And for them to gain a lot of cohesion, because we all know this, the Celtics, they're a little thin, right? After their top six, they're a little thin. Their bench can be good on some nights, but they're a little thin. And you look at a Sixers team like this, right? They're not. They're simply not. They lost their two best players. They lost three starters tonight. Nick Batum was starting for them. They still come out here. They look like a competent basketball team. And even some of the players off the bench, Korkmaz, Covington, those are players. So, those are players. You can argue what level of player they are, but they're players. And the fact of the matter is the Boston Celtics tonight, they did get the win, but the Philadelphia 76ers coming into the TD Garden, they were very impressive on the night. But shifting over to the Celtics perspective, there is a player on the Celtics, no matter who the Sixers have on their roster, this player, it doesn't matter. He's going to be the father of everybody who comes through the Sixers roster. And although there was no Joel Embiid tonight, Al Horford, our player of the game, versus the Philadelphia 76ers. 20 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, 7 of 9. Super efficient for Al Horford, along with 2 3-pointers on the night. He also was 4 of 4 at the free throw line. Al Horford, it doesn't matter who's playing for the 76ers. Joel Embiid or not, doesn't matter what type of roster they have. Al Horford is just bound to dominate his former team. It almost feels weird saying it's his former team. Feels like he never left Boston. But Al Horford puts up yet another classic Al Horford performance tonight against the Philadelphia 76ers. Franco, your thoughts on tonight's performance by Al?
That year was whitewash with the Philadelphia 76ers. But I did see those 2 blocks from Al Horford, and they came in back-to-back pogo stick type block against Tobias Harris in the fourth quarter. Really spark plugged this offense into a transition dunk by JB, and this team's that's exactly what this team needs in the fourth quarter. Al Horford, Jaylen Brown, with Jason Tatum stepping out, that looked like an all-end sign for the Celtics team, and it kind of might have struck a nerve in Celtics players or Celtics fans who were in the building watching Tatum get thrown out. But the fact that Al Horford was able to corral the troops and lead them into finishing off this game is something that this team needs from him. And we know Kristaps is going to miss his fair share of time here and there, and the depth is going to be necessary. We're seeing Neemias Queta and Luke Cornett step up is huge, and the fact that they've been able to switch off in a tandem as depth pieces is huge. So I'm really excited to see this team at full strength, and when they start utilizing Al Horford off the bench, that's when he's going to come in and really help out this team.
Al Horford, I want to kind of challenge the league as well in regards to Al Horford. It says 2 blocks tonight for Al, but I believe it said 1 block before. This is just my own perspective, okay? I'm just challenging this. I'm just challenging. I don't know. I haven't seen a replay yet, right? I'm like the coach on the side. But I thought NBA.com said 1 block, right? And then that play happened you're talking about where he comes up with the double block, and oh my goodness, the guard must have been absolutely electric. It seemed like on TV that it was. I can't imagine actually being there during that particular Al Horford moment. The double block, one on Tobias Harris, and I believe the other, I don't know if it was on Tobias as well, but it was immediately right afterwards. But 2 blocks, 1 sequence right there. I hope they didn't count that as 1 block, or for some reason they didn't count them correctly. But I don't know. I thought Al Horford might have had 3 blocks in this game. Just challenging, and under those circumstances, an even more impressive performance from Al Horford. But tonight from him, it's just amazing. At 37 years old, he continues to do this at this level, and not only perform in this way, but against his former team. I mean, it's like clockwork. It's like clockwork with this dude. It doesn't matter. Like I said, who's on the Sixers roster 2 years ago, back with the Celtics. I mean, let's just keep it running with Al Horford. Last year, coming into this year, let's keep it running with Al Horford. I feel like we're going to be on here 5 years from now. Al Horford is still going to be putting up these performances at a Tom Brady age, but we'll have to wait and see. In regards, though, to some other Celtics who performed well tonight. We actually had 4 Celtics in not double figures. We had 6 Celtics in double figures tonight, but 4 Celtics scored over 20 points. Brown, Tatum, White, and Al Horford notched his 20th point there late in the fourth quarter with some game clinching free throws. But those players go for 20 plus tonight. Holiday with 13, Hauser with 11. Hauser, 8 first quarter points for Hauser, only 1 3-pointer after that. Seemed like we could have been talking about Hauser as the player of the game after that first quarter, but it didn't quite materialize into that performance afterwards. Um, Although I want to talk about some of these good performances tonight, and I specifically want to talk about the guards, I want to get to something a little more negative before we talk about something good, because I do want to, traject more on a positive note. But to start off, Jason Tatum was ejected third quarter of this game, correct? At the end of the third quarter, it was basically, it was 1 second left. 1 second left in the third quarter. Jason Tatum, he's out of there. Finishes the night 6 of 9 from the floor, 21 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. Not a terrible performance until you look at 7 turnovers for Jason Tatum tonight. 7 turnovers. That number is absolutely abysmal considering he was thrown out at the end of the third quarter. And the fact he, I believe, entered halftime with 5 turnovers. So 2 turnovers right out of the gate in the third quarter. But Jason Tatum, and not only this too, Jaylen Brown took 20 shots tonight. He was 8 of 20. And he took 11 more shots than Tatum. Yeah, he was in the game a little bit longer than Tatum, but the shot discrepancy with Brown and Tatum, along with the turnover numbers. For you, Franco, is this turnover issue for Jason Tatum becoming a little bit of a concern?
So when Tatum's turning, these numbers kind of feel like they would have been flipped last year with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown is usually more of a efficiency scorer and should be more of the heat wave scorer, and Tatum should be more of the shot creator and creating his own plays. So not seeing most of this game, I feel like Jason Tatum having the ball in his hands trying to do independent play might not be working out for him.
Yeah, Jason Tatum to me needs to undoubtedly see these turnover numbers tank. Not in a bad way, of course, not tank in a bad way where he's throwing away turnovers all the time, but tank in a way where they hit 0. Because to turn the ball over 7 times in 3 quarters, and the Celtics 8 turnovers. Now, I'm not really sure what the exact number was because the stat sheet said 8, broadcast said, or no, the stat sheet said 7, broadcast said 8. But regardless, 7 or 8 Celtics turnovers in the first quarter. That's part of why this game was close. You just have to look at that. The Celtics turned the ball over 20 times. Now, I know turnover numbers are a little bit inflated in this era of the NBA because we see a lot of teams turn the ball over 10, 15 times a night. And that used to be a really high number, but it seems like teams routinely reach those kind of numbers because of the pace of the game. But to pass to I don't want to say pass to because they really didn't pass to anything to 20 turnovers is not great. And the Celtics, the fact 7 of those came from Tatum. I mean, 7. Yeah, the Celtics have 13 turnovers without Tatum, and he didn't even play the he didn't play the fourth quarter. So for that to be a thing, you can't be MVP level of player, star level of player, if you're turning the ball over this many times. You can be an all-star. You can put up numbers. You can be efficient from the floor, grab rebounds, and of course, still pass to assists. You can put up all those numbers, but if you levelize it, if you're turning the ball over 7 times in a game, even 5 times in a game, 4 times in a game, that can balance everything out negatively for a player's performance over time rather than he does all these other he's good intangibly across the board. It outweighs it at the end of the game when a player puts up this many turnovers. And you see in these occasions, a lot of teams typically will take advantage and see a really, really high number in their points off turnovers, and the margin and discrepancy between two teams can be very vast. And in those games, it's very hard to make up that difference. And tonight, the Celtics, in terms of points off turnovers, I believe the Celtics ended the game with more turnovers than the Sixers, 20-16. That being said, the Celtics actually had more points off of turnovers, 26-23, and you attribute that to the running in transition. The Celtics did 19 points in transition tonight to the Sixers 14. Both of those numbers pretty high for today's NBA. And the Sixers, they come out, though, 50 points in the paint to the Celtics 42. In a game without Joel Embiid, you'd like to see those a bit higher. But the turnovers are, for me, the main point here that I'm trying to make, too high for the Celtics, regardless of the fact they won the points off turnover battle. And it was close enough tonight for it not to be completely disastrous. But, say we do play a game with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey in the lineup, are they able to take advantage of that a little bit more? I believe that's probably the case. And under those circumstances, we're looking at a loss, and those turnovers can mean a lot. So the turnover just fest for the Celtics as of late, specifically for Brown and Tatum. And I actually want to, I shouldn't include Brown in this conversation. He had 3 turnovers tonight. That's not an amazing number, but I will say his turnover numbers, ever since we started really harping on him, I will say they have gone down. But ever since that moment of those numbers going down, those turnover numbers going down for Brown, Tatum, we see his turnover numbers go all the way up. And it's like, well, dang, we saw Jaylen Brown. Well, now Tatum is a turnover machine. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But regardless, I do expect both of these players to clean that up as time moves on. However, as we currently stand going into December, turnovers a little bit too many for comfortability from my perspective. That being said, 2 players away from Brown and Tatum who had nice performances tonight and who have not been particularly in the lineup together too often. One player was dealing with an ankle sprain, the other player some personal stuff on the side, maybe. I don't want to say a new father because he already has a kid, but Derek White. Congratulations, Derek White, another kid on this planet for Derek White. He's missed a couple of games due to that. And Drew Holiday on the other end. Those 2 guys played together tonight, combined 34 points, only 4 turnovers from the both of them. They were 9 of 22 combined, had pretty similar stat lines. Derek White, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Drew Holiday, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. Had to make sure I was getting that one right. 5-6, 5-6, but combined 11 and 11 for both of them. And tonight's game really felt like one of those games where they had control. They had good control of the pace of the game, good control of the pace of the offense, their playmaking for others. You see the assist numbers, 5 assists for Derek White, 6 assists for Drew Holiday. But out of those 2 players, how big do these players playing together, how big does that impact the Celtics moving forward?
It's a necessity. The biggest thing we complain about is the turnovers. And where do we see the turnovers coming from? Our 2 key players, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They are scorers, not playmakers. We have Drew Holiday and Derek White, who are consistent playmakers who can feed these guys the looks that they need, and it's just going to create more looks for themselves to do their own thing. I mean, the fact that Drew Holiday can go to the paint with very little to no contest almost every time, just because of how strong he is. It just makes that an independent threat in itself. And it's something that Marcus Smart, as much as we love him, didn't bring to this team. When he did something great, it was a kumbaya moment. When Drew Holiday or Derek White do these things, it looks like it's coming to him as second nature, and they're much more comfortable with the ball. I feel like they understand where these players are going to score and when Jaylen Brown's reaching his highest efficiency. And that's when he's getting fed the ball and he can play shot create for himself and be able to get to the rim. And with Jason Tatum, if you can use him more as a ISO slash kick out option, who can also do his versatile slashing, that's when you're going to see the best out of him. If the ball starts in Derek White and Drew Holiday's hands, that's when we're seeing the best basketball, because that means the ball is going to see 3 to 4 different Celtics and see 3 to 4 different ways this team could possibly score in one possession.
Yes, and I'm a little surprised the Celtics weren't able to score more often in the paint tonight with these guys, because it did feel like they were pretty aggressive in attacking that area and trying to collapse the defense and create those outside open looks. And just Drew Holiday and Derek White, the reason they're so good next to the Celtics. Not only they're elite perimeter guys defensively, but offensively they're just ball movers. They move the ball so fluently. Like you said, it's not like I don't want to trash on Marcus Smart here, but Marcus Smart, you kind of had to push a little bit, right, to one direction. And with Drew Holiday and Derek White, that ball movement, the attack, quick decision, make the pass, that's all second nature. It comes to them so naturally, to the point you don't really worry about those aspects of the game for them. You don't really worry about decision making too often. They make good, quick decisions within the Celtics offense, and that really, to me, is what gives me a lot of confidence in the Celtics. Not only they have two star scorers, they have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum might be one of the best scorers in the league, if not the best. But not only do you have that if you're the Celtics, but looking at the guard play, you have two elite perimeter defenders plus elite ball movers and elite playmakers as well. And I don't want to say they're elite attackers, because that would imply that they're great three-level scorers, great finishers. And we all know they have their moments of not being the most efficient scorers, both Holiday and White, but they are consistent attackers, and they put defenses on their toes and certainly create open opportunities for the Celtics, in which they take advantage of all the time. But tonight, I'm a bit surprised looking through the numbers here. Something I noticed, and this to me, I can't necessarily find the exact discrepancy in how, like, where this happened, how did this happen, right? Because the turnover numbers are what they are, and they're not that big. The rebounding numbers, we actually out rebounded them, but shots tonight, I look at this a lot, just pure field goal attempts, because think about this, right? Field goal attempts in the NBA. If one team has 100 chances to score and another team has 90 chances to score, well, who has the clear advantage? Who's theoretically playing better or creating more opportunities for themselves, or who's just going to have more of a chance to win? It's going to be the team with 100 shots versus the team with 90 shots. And tonight, the Celtics, 77 shots tonight, okay? To the Sixers, 95. 95. The Sixers took almost 20 more attempts than the Celtics. 20. That is a number way too big. Way too big in any game. And the Celtics, looking at that number alone, I don't care about any of the other numbers. I'm trying to figure out exactly where it happened. because typically it's rebounding, turnovers, all that good stuff, right? But just looking at that number alone, the field goal attempts, 77 to 95. The Boston Celtics are lucky they didn't come out with a loss. For real. Playing another real NBA team, another team in which we talked about too. This team, they look pretty deep, missing 3 starters tonight. They still have 2 guys to come off the bench who you can sort of rely on, Korkmaz and Covington tonight. And their starters just insanely hot coming into this game. If Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey play this game, if you're playing another team, I don't know if the Celtics come out with this victory just because of the shot discrepancy. 95 to 77 is just insanity. What do you think of that, Franco?
I think that I would. That's kind of reverse of what the Missoula ball has been for the Boston Celtics. I mean, it's not what this team has preached. The 3-pointers were down for this team. They only shot 33 from the arc, and not having Porzingis in, I understand that it's a different type of philosophy, and what they were going for were more quality looks against this team, as we said, with Drew Holiday and Derek White really feeding the ball around until that open shot is there for them to make, or that open cut to the lane is created. So the fact that the Celtics are able to win with a more qualitative than quantitative shot chart is a very good sign for this team, because there are going to be versatile wins that you're going to really need to edge it out with a team like the Philadelphia 76ers or the New York Knicks when it comes down to playoff time, when they're really there to bump you around and beat you on the hustle points, and you're gonna see the turnover is going up, and you'll see players that your star players getting frustrated and getting thrown out of the game from these games. It's going to happen. The attention's going to go up, or intensity is going to rise against teams that have more of a chip on their shoulder. So it's really just being able to slow down the ball and stay within their own game. Don't feed into anyone else's.
Yes, the Celtics, you know, just looking at the entirety of this game, it's a little weird. It's a little weird feeling because typically coming out with a win over the Sixers, you're thinking, this is a great night, and it is because we ultimately won. Like we won, we won. But some of the little aspects of this game were not great. I will say for the Celtics, and it's illustrated in the final score just a tad. The fact this wasn't a heftier margin than only 6 at the end of the night, but you do have to feel good about the Celtics win anyway. I do want to talk about, there's something else I specifically wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, for this game is just I did feel as that the Celtics, from a whole, it's not a whole team's perspective thing, because I thought guys played individually well tonight. We saw Derek White, Holiday, Hauser came out very hot. Horford had a classic performance. Pritchard was big down the stretch. Didn't even mention him yet. He had 10 points. His shooting line didn't look gaudy or anything. 3 of 7, 2 of 6 from 3, but he was big down the stretch. Some of these other guys, Kata came into the game for 10 minutes. Banton played for 10 minutes, had 4 points, 2 of 4. Some of these other guys, they came in and played well. They played their roles well. The only thing I don't like about this game is Number one, the shot discrepancy between Brown and Tatum was not great in this particular contest, and Tatum just kind of letting himself go out in the third quarter and be ejected. Now, you can say whatever you want about, oh yeah, well the ref teed him up twice, the ref's fault, blah blah blah. You have to know if you're the star player, if you're in that situation when your team needs you, right?
And your
And you
coaches are
already
running
have
out.
you already have one technical, and the game is not decided. It's not as if the game had been decided at this point. He already had a technical. He kept talking, kept talking, kept talking, gets thrown out, right? And to me, it's kind of like from his perspective, I can almost see it as like, okay, well, I'm thrown out, whatever, because Joel Embiid is not playing tonight. Tyrese Maxey's not playing tonight. This game is not as big on a Friday night in Boston as it would be with those two players, with everybody playing, yada yada. And we should, the Celtics. Even when he went out of the game, I would say as a Celtics fan, I still had major confidence in the team pulling out the win, and that's
I felt
exactly what they
better.
did.
I
That's
felt better
exactly
for
what they
that.
did. But the fact of the matter of him just kind of being okay with coming out of the game in that certain instance, and not being there the rest of the way, don't necessarily like that, and I don't like the the way, to me, the game was being approached by Brown and Tatum early on, because I think this is the problem with Brown and Tatum, is that Brown, you actually want to see sometimes be a little less aggressive and give up some shots to Tatum every now and then Tatum to be more aggressive. But then you get these weird games where
It
you see
flops.
Brown just take off and be super aggressive, and then it's like, whoa, 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 wait a minute here. And then Tatum, on the other hand, it's like, can we get Tatum more involved? Can we get him more involved? Can we get him more involved? And under those circumstances, like, okay, can we kind of flip it a little bit? Can we flip it to where Tatum is more aggressive and Brown is, I don't want him to be nonchalant or anything like that. I don't want guys to take back seats, but it seems like the opposite of what needs to happen sometimes plays out on court. And I thought early in this game that was sort of what was happening. And I don't want to say that was because of the opponent who we were facing, because of the circumstances, but you would have to speculate that maybe because of the circumstances tonight, playing who they played, three starters out for Philadelphia, maybe Brown and Tatum do look at this game and go, okay. Brown comes in and goes, okay, this is going to be my night. And Tatum goes, all right, cool. Yeah, it's going to be Brown's night. Here we go. And I don't know if that's the mindset. I certainly don't like that it is, but that's more of the speculation. I will say it's not a real factoid. I don't want to. I'm not reporting this, people. I'm not reporting that this is what's happening with Brown and Tatum. I'm just kind of speculating what happens in these moments and games where maybe NBA players, you, you know, guys realize 82 games a season with all the injuries that have happened in time and players, more data coming out about players, healing injuries and whatnot, resting injuries. They know they can't go 100% every single night. And, you know, maybe this is a spot in which Tatum and Brown pick their spot and go, okay, we're going to play this game, but we're not going to play this like we would if Joel Embiid was coming to the Garden, or say Jimmy Butler was coming to the Garden, or Giannis, or whoever you want to say out there, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, all those players. So to me, not exactly a huge fan of that aspect of the game, but you still, for the Celtics, feels good that they pulled out a win. But from your perspective with Brown and Tatum, what is your opinion on all of that?
It should be. It shouldn't be either or's night. It should be both. Should be going in with the intent of doing what is asked of the team. Yes, there will be more schemes and different rosters and different matchups that will favor, let's say, Tatum shooting or yeah, okay, so we want Tatum to work the post and also have Brown working as more of a 3-point option. Okay, but it shouldn't be an on and off switch with these players. It should be that they should be able to function and complement each other's roles, which everyone has always questioned if they can. They've shown that they've been able to do it in the past, and what they need to do is let other players run the plays around them so it puts them in the position to score. Because when Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are going down the court and squaring off a shot just for it to either A, go in, or B, rattle off, that's when we see these stretches happen that lead to scores like these.
Yes, and this game as a whole for Brown and Tatum, I will say it's not as drastic as some of these other games because we've seen games before where their performances because they have not, because they're I want to say because of some of the numbers we saw tonight, right? 7 turnovers, 8 of 20 shooting from Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown didn't have 7 turnovers. Jason Tatum had 7 turnovers. But those type of numbers, the 8 of 20 shooting for Jaylen Brown, the 7 turnovers for Jason Tatum, we've seen those type of performances cost the Celtics in the past. And what's great about tonight is it's not as drastic as that because 125, 119. So even though might be harping on Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum just a little bit too much after this game, I will say they were really the only performers on the Celtics who performed below their standards. Everyone else was either at their standard or above. And that's definitely something, regardless of what Brown and Tatum did tonight, you have to feel great about if you're a Celtics fan, because regardless of how Brown and Tatum play on a night to night basis, because moving forward, we do expect them to be a lot better. We expect them to be better in the playoffs. We expect them to be consistently better. But outside of them, the team looks to be integrating well together at this point in time. I like some of the confidence that I'm seeing off the bench. And yes, the team is still a bit thin, little bit at times. But you see with guys receiving more opportunity with Porzingis out of the lineup, Derek White and Drew Holiday missed some time. Al Horford, I believe, even missed a game in the past. With all those guys missing time already, some of these other guys off the bench have now received some good run to the point where they come into the game, they feel confident in what they're doing with the rest of the Celtics team. And it doesn't, looking at some of our post games at the early portion of the season, and even looking at some of the game film, it doesn't look the same. A lot of the conversations don't sound the same. A lot of the games don't look the same as they do right now, especially in regards to some of these other guys and the bench who look like they're integrating into the Celtics system a lot better and playing a lot more comfortably within their roles than they were to start the season when the team was absolutely brand new. And another stat I want to throw out tonight, Derek White wasn't on the bottom of the screen, but Derek White, 8 of 8 from the free throw line tonight. So we talked about Derek White a couple of post games ago and how he, for some reason, this season in particular, I shouldn't say for some reason, but Derek White, he has become kind of a free throw merchant. Not in a bad way for the Celtics fans, not in a bad way. He has become somebody who actually can get to the line and score some points at the line. We were on here the other night, he had 15 points, and we were talking about how most nights Derek White shoots 0 of 6 from 3. He's not coming up with 15 points. He's coming up with a lot less than that, and his stat line is looking pretty abysmal. But in that game the other night, he had 11 assists, and his free throws propped up his scoring number. And tonight, 8 of 8 from the line, so 8 free throws for Derek White. Just think those are 8 free points. He just had to stand there. I forgot how many feet from the basket a free throw is. Just stand there and make it. 8 points, 8 free points. Nobody had to defend him, nothing. So Derek White, shout out to him tonight for coming up with those 8 free throws, 8 huge free throws. As you see, the Celtics only won by 6. But as we, uh, the show isn't ending yet, but we're nearing the end of our show here. Uh, any last thoughts on what you saw from the Celtics tonight, or even the Sixers roster tonight with how well they played?
This is just going to be one of those matchups that, yes, the war is over. When the Celtics have Philly's number, the debate's been settled, but this team is always seeking that revenge. And as much as we want to just brush them under the rug, we never will be able to. Just because it is their set goal to one day outdo us. And if they were able to beat us tonight, the headlines that they would be able to run with, the Patrick Beverly podcast the next morning, you would see them. You'd basically see Patrick Beverly doing the Rocky Balboa run up the up the Philly staircase. But I think that the Celtics really need to hone in, and I think they have a few days off before they head down to Indianapolis to play the Pacers. I'm not sure if we're going to be having Kristaps back in time for that, but I think that the Celtics are going to be in for a rude awakening if they show up to Indianapolis and not make any adjustments. And it's a very easy place that we could get stunned very easily if they go in, not make the adjustments, come in stale off the second and third quarters. And there's going to be some times that you're not going to be able to just play catch up and have a few good possessions to save the team's ass before they can't move forward. But I also would love to see my three guys, Svi Mikhailu and O'Shea Brissett and Lamar Stevens, worked in there more instead of Luke Cornett against these teams that are smaller bodied, less physical teams, and because they will match more of an energy type player like a Robert Covington.
And I'm surprised tonight the Celtics only took 33 3-pointers on the night. 33. And I'm a little surprised, not surprised from the standpoint of Joel Embiid's out. You want to drive the paint a little bit more. Maybe you take less threes, but they did come out with less threes attempted than the Philadelphia 76ers, 33-35. That was a little bit of a surprise tonight, but I don't want to. I don't know. I used to make guarantees on the show all the time. Maybe I should return to doing that. But I want to say that number, that 33 number, when Joe Mazzulla wants that number to be up at 50, which we'll see if that's still a goal for this team moving forward. There's been some debate on whether or not that should be the actual goal, especially on this program. But moving forward against the Indiana Pacers, it's going to be a high-paced game. We all know they have the worst. Kirk Goldsberry released his graph this morning, the net ratings, offense, defense, and overall net ratings in the last 10 games. And Indiana, congratulations. Congratulations, Pacers. One of the better offenses, the worst defense in the NBA. So the Celtics already putting up 155 points on this defense this year. Should look interesting the second time around. A lot different. I will say. I believe the first matchup, Tyrese Halliburton didn't even play in Boston, if I'm not mistaken.
Or
I might
Benedict.
Matherin didn't play. There's a lot of guys were missing from that contest, and which will be in the lineup on Monday when the Celtics travel to Indianapolis. But I expect that game to be it's gonna be a fun one for sure because we know the Celtics when they get into that pace and that style of play, they can put up some points on the board too. They're more of a well-rounded team. The Celtics are more. I don't want to say they're more defensive oriented, but they're more defensive oriented than the Pacers. And from that perspective, we don't see the Celtics, go as crazy in some of those games as we see some other teams, such as the Pacers, the Hawks, teams who don't necessarily play a ton of defense. Uh, those scoring numbers for those offensively oriented teams, they can get up in the 140s. We all know the Celtics too can put up those numbers if they really want to run and gun. And I'm interested to see if that is certainly the case on Monday in Indiana, or if Indiana falls more towards the Celtics level and the Celtics can keep them at their pace and put more of a defensive clamping on them. Wonder if we'll get more of a game like we saw tonight, where it's pretty fast paced, pretty high scoring, but not anything drastic like in the 140s. We've seen these type of scores on normal nights before, but that game should be interesting certainly on Monday. The Celtics playing in the inaugural in-season tournament in the quarterfinal, not playing at home but playing in Indianapolis. We will have your coverage here on Celtics Talk Weekly post game when that game rolls around, only a couple days away. But tonight, the Celtics, they defeat the Philadelphia 76ers yet again. I mean, how many times have we said it on this program? The Boston Celtics defeat the Philadelphia 76ers 125 to 119 at the TD Garden. I'm, of course, your host, Seamus Zarlingo. Right next to me here is Franco. And like we always say, ending the broadcast, go Celtics.